Hi, this is Keith Weaver with the Top Executive Strategy Podcast, where CEOs, COOs, and business owners share strategies for better success. This is 6 questions in 9 minutes because the best strategies are concise business advice. And we're going to get right to our guest today. And with question number one, in a few sentences, tell us who you are and what you do.
I'd love to, Keith. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm Cheryl Benedict. I'm the business owner of MORF Consulting. I'm a recent award-winning author of The Wisdom of Transition, Navigating Change at Work. I'm a leadership consultant and executive coach. And what I do is I have the incredible honor of partnering with successful organizations to grow their leaders in the midst of organizational change.
And as a lot of companies know, there's been a lot of change in the last 12
No
months,
kidding.
24 months. So.
No kidding. No kidding.
Well, it's great to have you on. We appreciate you taking time to offer some of your insights. So, question number two, what's the best thing about being a business leader?
I would say the best thing about being a business leader, and in my case, a business owner, is autonomy and influence. My number one strength on Strength Finder is maximizer. So I have this intrinsic love of growing leaders to be all that they can be.
Very nice. Awesome. All right. Question number three. I hear from other people that their people strategy in running their business is often more challenging than the actual business strategy in running their business. Your thoughts?
I can appreciate that viewpoint, Keith, but I would say that, well, probably because my gift and forte is the people side of the business. It's where I thrive. I would say that organizations are really figuring that out. Um, the number one expense inside an organization is typically facilities. Number two is people. And to invest in people, to me, is where you're going to get the strongest ROI. My business is all about executive coaching, succession planning, team building, creating executive retreats, creating leadership programs. So I'm always helping organizations to invest in what I believe their most important asset is, and that's their people.
And I think you bring up a really good point. The businesses that are figuring out are investing in their people, and those that aren't figuring it out or struggling with it are probably the ones that aren't investing enough into that resource.
That's right.
So, all right, question number four. What strategy would you like to share with other business leaders?
This is a strategy. I'm so grateful you asked this question because this strategy comes from having coached probably 85 leaders a month this last year and in probably the last 15 years. And I would say the strategy that makes the most sense right now is to create an environment of psychological safety and trust, because that's the kind of environment where teams and employees and leaders will rise to their highest and best. I look at employee owned firms, companies that have been around for 65 years, 100 years, where there's a sense of every penny I spend matters because I own this. And so I would say if there's any opportunity to consider creating an employee-owned firm or cultivating that kind of environment, that's going to be the best strategy, especially with people working from home during COVID this last year. You have to implicitly trust the people are going to get the job done.
Well, there's been several articles out that where they took surveys of 2020, and the sense of instability and just insecurity is like an all-time high because of just the unknowns and the changes and stuff. So like you said, to foster that stability and security in the business and in that environment, in that atmosphere, would be extremely important.
Well, I would agree. And I just want to briefly say that in my book, I talk a lot about that when we're in the midst of the kind of environment that you're talking about, when we're going through change and transition, often we'll discover we're not on top of our game. It's almost as if we're operating with 40% or 60% of our normal smarts and bandwidth, because the rest of us is subsumed with the worry that you're talking about, with the insecurity and the instability and the sense of looming indefinite uncertainty. So Well said. I think this year has probably been the hardest year that organizations and individuals have ever faced. Hopefully it will be the hardest year ever. We can
That's right.
put it behind us.
We
Yeah.
hope for much better times, and look forward to looking at your book and learning more about it. I read some reviews, and it's a great book, it sounds like, and so I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but that's on my list.
Thank you. Thank you.
So question number 5. What other successful business owners or CEOs like yourself would you like to maybe do a shout out to or acknowledge, or you think would even be good on the podcast?
Yeah, I've given some thought, Keith. I would say that the number one person would be Christopher Sherry. He wrote the foreword for my book, and he's the president CEO of American Company. They've been an employee-owned firm for 65 years, and he's the kind of leader that creates followership. I think you'd love to have him on the show. The second one is John Berghoff. He's the president CEO of Exchange. I've only known him for 2 months. I attended a 3-day training that he provided for master facilitators like myself on how the heck do you create an in-person training to become an online Zoom training that's dynamic, fun, interactive, not boring, heart-centered. And I would say that I would love everyone to know about it because it's become a game changer for the work I do.
Well,
And
and
then
so many companies are having to transition that direction. So.
well, yeah, and I've had all these leadership development programs that were intended to launch to be in person to build social capital, and I've been challenged to figure out how can I do them via Zoom. And I would have to say he's fulfilled an unmet need for so many of us on how do you create a program that's exhilarating and fun and exciting, same content, just delivered in a different way.
Sorry, I think I interrupted you. I
Well,
apologize.
I wanted to. Sure, if I have a chance to do a shout out, the third and final person is Brad Wind, who's the general manager of the Northern Water Conservancy District. I just really admire his thoughtful approach to leadership. I think you'd love to have him on the show.
Well, great. Yeah, we'll see if any or all of those are available and would love to hear their insights. So, just kind of a final, fun last question. Tell me about one of your favorite past bosses.
That's an easy one. My all-time favorite was my very first boss. His name was Bob May, and he was the kind of leader who inspired all of us to be our best. I remember back in the day saying to my friends, I want to grow up and be just like Bob May. I want to be Bob May's boy. I want to be mentored so that I can grow up to be the kind of leader he is. And I know that so many of us benefited from him because he was the kind of leader who worked his way up through the organization, who wasn't afraid to roll up his sleeves, join in, solve problems, put out fires. He was a treasure.
There's something to be said of, going up the ranks of a company and just getting a feel for the different things. And then, of course, not forgetting where you came from to
That's
when you're
right.
being a leader. So,
Well, there's a humbleness connected to that, I think.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, it has been great having you on and hearing your insights. Before we go, can you tell people how they might be able to connect with you?
I'd love to. I have a website called morphconsulting.com. Morph is spelled MORF as in Frank. So morphconsulting.com is perfect. You can leave a message for me there and I can connect with you.
That sounds great. Again, thank you so much for being on, and we hope you continued success. And this is Keith Weaver with the Top Executive Strategy Podcast. And for more insights and to follow us, you can follow us on LinkedIn at Weaver Business Coaching. And of course, listen to us on your favorite podcast platform. And we wish you all the best success.